As I've said, should we create entity assets for the directory brand? Yes, of course you should. You want to build that brand up as much as possible. For the Felling Pro, for your LLG brands, remember, those are sales tools. You can build a brand around that if you want, but it's difficult, more difficult to do without Google Business Profiles. And remember, I'm not teaching or promoting to you guys to go out and try to get spam GBPs anymore. Okay, I've completely abandoned that strategy. Completely abandoned that strategy because of all the problems with Google Business Profiles when they're not real valid business locations. So for the LLG sites or your local lead generation brand, not so much, right? If you are able to get GBPs for any of the locations that you create, by all means, you can create branded assets for those. But for the directory brand, yeah, you want to try to build branded assets for that. If you can get a GBP for your directory brand, get one. I had one and it got suspended because I conflated, and that was my fault. It was my problem that it was completely my fault that it got suspended because I did some stupid things that ambiguated what Google understood about TreeCare HQ, the brand. And I made a mistake, and thank God I did that before I started teaching it, and I experienced and I realized what had happened once it was suspended. And so I switched up what I was teaching to have separate brands. That's why there's two brands now, directory brand and a local lead gen brand specifically, because before I tried to combine the two, directory plus lead gen under the TreeCare HQ brand, and it caused Google to kind of slant what it understood about TreeCare HQ more as a tree service company than a marketing company or a directory/marketing company. And so it kept my TreeCare HQ local lead generation GBPs that were set up as tree service GBPs, but my TreeCare HQ marketing agency GBP was suspended. And so it ambiguated or polluted what Google understood about my brand. So that's why I separated them to instead having TreeCare HQ, which is the directory and marketing agency, and now the lead gen brand is Felling Pro. It was to disambiguate the two, but I'm still, even over a year and a half later, over a year and a half later now, actually, there's still some issues that TreeCare HQ is suffering from because I polluted my brand. So yeah, to answer your question, you want to promote the brand, but be strict about it's a directory and a marketing agency. Does that make sense? Or, a growth agency, whatever you want to call it. But you want to separate that from your local lead generation brand, if that's clear. But yes, you want to build a brand for it. Okay. As much as possible. You want to have a national directory that ranks well in, whatever country you're targeting. You want to build the brand up as much as possible. Okay. Should we build, I see a follow-up question in chat. Should we create entity assets for directory even if we can't get a GBP for it? Yeah, you should. You just might have to just omit a street address, right? If you are going to attempt to try to get GBP at some point, then you still want to assign city, state, and zip code to the business, so to speak, even if it doesn't have a physical location yet. Pick an area that if you were to get a GBP, you would try to secure it there. That way you can treat it as a service area business, even though it doesn't have a GBP, right? So that it's going to be company name and then city, state, zip. So that would be the name and address kind of data points of NAPW, right? Name, address, phone number, website. So you still want to have a website and a phone number, but you don't actually have a physical location. So you can still treat it as such by naming name, physical address, but only listing like it was a service area business, city, state, zip, or postal code, right? And then phone number and website. And so you can still treat it as a local business, right? Or a brand that has a physical location, even though it doesn't. Okay. So yes, you still want to build branded assets. And the reason why you want to try to use that same location, if possible, is because if you end up getting a GBP later, then it would be congruent with all the assets that were already created. Hopefully that's clear. Okay.